Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. This is the first video of 2026 and it is, as tradition dictates, the answers to our advent calendar quiz. Now, after an absolutely disastrous draw of the winner, we finally came up with a winner. And so well done to the winner. And I've not actually emailed you yet, but I will be emailing you, and we can sort out your prize. But as some of you will have known, we had the Advent Calendar Challenge, which was a series of 24 photographs of Napoleonic figures from different manufacturers, and all I asked you was to identify the manufacturer for me. So I had a request on the live stream, although we do it anyway for a video going over the results, and this is that video. So I think it is only fitting that we start with the picture from December the 1st, and this one is a doozy. Anyone who has been around the 28mm Napoleonic scene for any amount of time, I'm sure, will recognise that this is from the Perrys. Now, the Perrys are obviously, they're actually quite a relatively new company. When some of the ones that we'll go through here, they're a very new company. But they have a large and extensive range of Napoleonic figures, including quite a number of plastics. They are, for my money, probably the best manufacturer out there that is easy to get hold of. I will that's the caveat I'll put on that one. They're not necessarily more difficult than many of the others. The others aren't particularly more difficult than them. But these guys, they have a really good show presence. And also the other thing as well is because they do the plastics, you can often find them in third-party sellers such as The Outpost or Wayland Games or places like that that give you a little bit of a discount on them. They cover pretty much the whole span of the Napoleonic Wars in some form or another, including quite a large range of Eastern campaign stuff. So if you want the British in India, then they've got a range for that. If you want the French in Egypt, they've got a separate range for that. The India stuff is mixed in with the Napoleonic British. The French in Egypt is a separate line, as is their Revolutionary Wars, which they are currently working on. So an absolutely fantastic manufacturer. Their scale-wise, they mix with pretty much everyone. I would consider them to be the size of which all the others are compared. So I would call them medium. And as I say, they do a really, really nice range of different figures. Metals, plastics, really good. There's not really much more to say. I'm sure that 99% of my audience will be aware of the Perrys. So moving on to the second. Now, I'm sure that a large portion of a certain demographic will be aware of these guys. These are their soft plastic models. These are 1/72nd scale, and they are from the manufacturer Airfix. Now, when I was a kid, I said this in my Clue video, this is a reason why they're so high up on the list. They're number 2 in the list. Is when I was a kid, it was seeing my dad's Wargaming table setups with hundreds of Airfix figures on, such as these, that really inspired me to be interested in the Napoleonic Wars. And the film Waterloo as well, of course. Really inspired me to be interested in Napoleonic Wars and Wargaming in general. It's something that the Yorkshire Gamer talks about quite a lot. So he's a Facebooker and a YouTuber. That he is very much into the spectacle of games, and that's definitely something that Airfix allowed me to appreciate. Now, they were originally created as toys. You got like a set with La Haye Saint and stuff like that, and they weren't necessarily designed to be painted and used as wargaming figures, but obviously that is what they were quickly seized upon for. So yeah, so these guys, they are still available. You can still get them. I'm not sure if they're currently being manufactured, but there are people out there that sell them. Wonderland Hobbies used to have some. I don't think they've got any anymore. But they did, certainly pre-COVID. That's going back some time itself, isn't it? But yeah, these are out there. They are available. I think they've recently re-released the La Haye Saint set as well. So that's a doable. But yeah, there you go. Number 2 was an absolute stone cold classic. I'm sure many of my viewers and listeners in their 50s and 60s will be fully aware of Airfix, and will have had probably many a game enjoying their figures. Now, a company that was for the 3rd of December. We went super small in this one. We've had 28mm, we've had 20mm or 1/72 scale. Now we are going to 6mm, and I think it's the only 6mm manufacturer on this list, and it is a local company to me. They are from Sheffield. It is Bacchus Miniatures. Now, these guys do an absolutely insane catalogue. Oh, I should say for Airfix as well. Their catalogue's fairly limited and they're quite static, but they're kind of fun, so I quite like them. Now, when it comes to Bacchus, they have a really extensive range of figures, particularly when you consider they're only 6mm tall. Am I really going to know if there's a chevron cuff on that guy or not? Probably not, but you know what? It's on there anyway. So I have to give them kudos for that. Now, one of the big things with 6mm is that you can have massed battles, or you can play a medium-sized battle on a smaller area. So, particularly these days, like there's less clubs out there, more people having to play inside the house, and the houses perhaps not as big as they used to be. Then 6mm or 15mm, 10mm, whatever, they can be really good ways of playing without needing a whole school hall in order to set your table out. So as I once said, 28mm in the streets, 50mm in the sheets. So there you go. I'm talking about figure sizes. Obviously, that's what I'm talking about there. But yeah. So the idea here, it was with the 6mm figures that you can have a more massed battle experience with them, and that's why I think they're particularly good for games such as Blucher or General d'Armée, where you're Napoleon in this case, or you're Wellington, or Archduke Charles, or whatever. You're not just a brigade commander or a divisional commander, you are the man himself. So 6mm can really give you that because of the figures so small, it really gives you a massed battle perspective. Bacchus, as I say, I think they are the best 6mm out there. I've painted some of their First World War German cavalry, weirdly. And they paint it really, really nicely. So, yes, I have a little bit of experience painting Bacchus. Not much, but and a very specific unit it was. But, yeah, there you go. So, number 3, the 3rd of December, was Bacchus Miniatures. So, we're going to move on to the next reasonable one. And that is the 4th of December, and we saw these fine chaps here, and these are from Victrix. Now, Victrix is an interesting company. It's almost a company of two halves. They started off, I believe, their first ever set was mid-war French infantry. If not, it was late war French infantry. They may have even come out at the same time. But they started off with French, and they did British as well. They're a little bit odd how they sell the British. They do flank companies and centre companies in 2 separate packs. A little bit weird. I am going to redo my Start Collecting videos, and I'm going to deep dive into... In fact, I may even do a separate video on deep diving into how to get the most out of your Victrix boxes. But, yeah, so these guys, they started off with them. Then they moved into... the Highlanders that you can see here. Now, they are, as far as I'm aware, the only plastic 28mm Highlanders out there. So that's a fantastic resource for them in of themselves. But one of the problems is, with the British and the French, they are very fiddly. Okay, now this is something I found with even later Victrix sets. So I've recently bought a Viking army from Victrix. You need to have specific arms, need to go together, and they're not necessarily next to each other on the sprue. They are very fiddly, okay? So be warned, they are very fiddly, but the plus side to that is you can get a huge amount of poses out of them. Maybe not as many as you might think initially, but you can get a huge amount of poses out of them. This makes them particularly good for skirmish games like Sharp Practice, because you don't want all you guys stood there in march attack or firing line or whatever. So you get a really, really nice mix out of these guys. Their later sets, the Austrians and the Bavarians, as well as the French Imperial Guard, they made them slightly differently. So you get, I think you get 6 figures on a sprue, 4 of which are in march attack, so you just have to glue the head and the pack on them, and 2 have no arms attached, so you can either have them firing, you can have them in march attack as well, or you can have them loading, as I say, firing, you can have them charging, things like that. Now, one of the things I really like about that is you get enough to create a unit where maybe the back rank have got the shouldered arms, the front rank are at the advance, things like that. But with the Victrix, this is my top tip for Victrix. Some of the nicest models on the market, but you really need to look at what you've got and work out what figures doing what as well. So they a little bit of sit down and planning when you get Victrix, and that'll pay dividends in the long run. But I would highly recommend them. Did I say they do Bavarians as well? I do highly recommend them. Victrix are great. They also do plastic artillery for the British and the French, which are, I mean, for me, there's none better out there. Because they're plastic, they're really good value for money. Although the price has creeped up a little bit recently, but it is what it is. But you get lots of extras in there as well. So really nice, would highly recommend. Speaking of really nice, would recommend, we have Warlord Games next. Now, there's a little bit of a spoiler alert. There are going to be 2 entries for Warlord Games on this list. And I think that's justified because they are the authors of Black Powder. So we will give them the benefit of the doubt here. Now, as I say, they are nice figures worth collecting. There is a caveat to that. Some are, some not so great. I don't know why, and I really, well, I don't think I'll ever know why. They're French and British line infantry. People don't like them. They're perfectly serviceable to me. I have no issue with them whatsoever. The cavalry, less so. But the infantry, absolutely fine. Really nice models. And I include the commands in that, which are very, very expensive, unfortunately. But they are actually quite nice models. So Warlord, I don't know if there's much that we need to say about Warlord. They are sometimes considered the Games Workshop of historical wargaming, with all the positive and negative connotations that moniker will bring. I think that's a little harsh. I think they're, by and large, I think they're a company that try their best. They don't necessarily always succeed, but you know what? They are a fairly new company, particularly in the when we look back at how old some of these companies are. As I said, similar to the Perrys, these guys are, I honestly think they're trying their best. Some of their models worth getting more so than others, but you can't go wrong. You know, if someone gives you the Waterloo starter set or something like that, you can go much further wrong than getting those. So we're going to go back to an older manufacturer here now. We're going for the answer to the 6th of December, and this one is a Italieri. We're back to the soft plastic 1/72 scale. Now, I really like Italieri. I think, for me personally, they are the second best of the 1/72 scale plastic Napoleonic manufacturers. I think there are, as is always the case, there are some that are better than others, but I think stuff such as their Carabinier set is very, very nice. Some of their figures are rather dated now. I think they were having, I think they started in the 90s, so yeah, some of their models now maybe not up to the standard that we are perhaps used to today, and I think there are, for most of the ones that are not so good, there are other alternatives out there that are better. So it's sort of it's a funny one because you've got a huge range of models, and I think the ones that no one else does are good, but the ones that that are done by other people can sometimes be better. I've just I just had a look at their early French infantry. I didn't realise it was early French infantry, and Lord alive, I wish I had never seen that they did, because they've got interesting faces, but that's for sure. But certainly their Carabiniers are really nice. Now, one thing I will say about their Cuirassiers, now this may be the case with the Carabiniers as well. I'm not 100% certain. I'm just going to see if I can have a quick check. But I might... I'm not going to spend ages doing this. Certainly with the Cuirassiers, they are actually a re-release of another company's Cuirassiers. They're from Eschi. So sometimes they're not their own figures, so that's sometimes worth looking about. They also do a really nice set of Highlanders as well, and it's I really like them. So Italieri, if you're into your 1/72 scale, I think you'll definitely know about Italieri, but you can do yourself a lot worse, especially given that they do all of the nations as well. Not all of the 1/72 scale manufacturers do, and we'll come on to those a bit later on. So we are now looking at the 7th of December, and speaking of old classics, this one is one of the old men of Napoleonic Wargaming, one of the true elites back in the day. This is, of course, Front Rank. Now, Front Rank are an interesting manufacturer. They've recently been bought by Gripping Beast. They are what I would consider an old school figure manufacturer, in so much as, so take for example my battalion of Italian Guard Grenadiers. There is one pose for march attack that they do. So there's one sculpt, and I have that one sculpt 35 times, or less than that, 30 times, and they make up the unit. So they look a little bit like Michael Jackson backing dancers, unfortunately. That's one of the problems with Front Rank. If you want something like march attack or whatever, then you've only got one pose. Now, you can interpose a guy with a poker on, or a guy with a sleeping cap. And by the time you've put in your Grenadiers and your Voltigeurs and your command, you've not actually got that many of the same model. So it's not necessarily the end of the world. You can also have, as I said earlier on, you could have maybe guys with their muskets leveled in the front rank and shouldered in the rear rank. Yeah, stuff like that. There are ways around it. One of the really good things about Front Rank is they do sell models individually. However, they did also have an update to their ranges relatively recently, probably about 10 years ago. Now, I say that's relatively recent because Front Rank have been going since the 80s. So they are let's say, one of the old men of the hobbies. They're rather large 28mm figures, I should say, as well. They're more on the scale of like Spencer Smith's, although they were 30mm, so they're even bigger. But anyway, one of the things that they had a sort of a range refresh, and they brought out things called reinforcement packs. Now, these are excellent. These are really, really good. They are 6 different poses, and they're a lot cleaner than the old sculpts. The old sculpts, they are beefy boys. They have got big fat heads and huge hands. Now, I quite like that. That's a stylistic choice that goes back to the olden days, and I actually quite like it. But I can understand it may not be to everyone's taste. The new reinforcement packs, though, are much more like a modern sculpt, much more like the Perrys, or even something like the Foundry. Well, that's the Perrys as well. But even something like Avonpost. They're not quite as true scale as Avonpost, but they are really, really nice. I cannot recommend the reinforcement packs enough. I've got 6 battalions of Russian Guard made up from them, and yeah, I could not be happier with them. So that's the thing with the Front Rank. Just have a look at what you're getting. If it's an old school model, they may not be quite as dynamic as we're used to now. They are very dated. The new models are really, really nice. Top draw as far as I'm concerned. I have heard, since the acquisition of them by Gripping Beast, I have heard that the metal that they use to cast their figures isn't the quality it used to be. Now, I can't comment on that because I haven't bought any since the takeover, but that is what I've heard independently from 3 different sources of people talking about it. So just be aware of that. But I can't have any personal opinion on it because I haven't bought any myself. But there is absolutely no doubt that whatever the quality of the metal, these guys are absolute classics. And back in the day, if you had a Front Rank army, you were considered to be the elite of the Napoleonic gamers. But yep, here we are. That's the 7th of December, and that is Front Rank. And I've just been talking past the microphone, so that's why my voice sounded so weird. So now we head to December the 8th, and this is a little bit of a sneaky one, because these aren't really for wargaming. These are display miniatures. And the company that makes these is Andrea Miniatures. Now, these are very much display pieces. They do some really, really nice ones. They do like a French hussar who's like saluting his opponent and things like that. These are, I mean, they're very expensive if you want to get them painted. But, you know, these guys are lovely. I'm not going to talk too much about them because I'll be honest with you, I don't know that much about this company. I did have a look at their Dark Age stuff they do and their fancy stuff, and it seems to be very nice. This is more my brother's type of figures than mine, I have to say. So maybe I shall have to get his opinion on them. But yep, no, these are Andrea Miniatures. I think he is where's he from? I want to say he's Spanish. I could be wrong on that one. But yeah, these guys are not really for wargaming. They are more of a display piece. I just wanted to throw them in there as a little bit of a curveball, as a little bit of fun. And I thought that by the time we got to the 8th of December, it was time that we looked at something a little bit different. But yep, Andrea Miniatures. That is number 8. Now, number 9. These are a company that I have a rather what's the word? A rather love-hate relationship. That's not really the word because it's a bit too strong. But this company is AB Miniatures. Now, these guys are 18mm. Now, I remember when Warlord brought out their Epic range, that people said, oh yeah, it's a proprietary scale. They're only making it that size so they can sell their own models. That's exactly how they all talked as well. Now, the thing that made me laugh about that was that these are the kind of same people who would absolutely glaze all over the AB Miniatures. Now, I can say this with laughter in my voice and clarity in my conscience, because I didn't say that about Warlord, and I can still glaze over the AB Miniatures. They brought out a set of figures that was a scale that only they do. Let's be honest, to force you to buy their models if you like them. That said, they are absolutely stunning models. They are 100% worth getting into. Now, what I mean by that is, when I first started, I started collecting Essex miniatures, which didn't make it on the list, which is a bit of a shame because I love Essex miniatures. Not the best, but definitely my favourite. And they were a small 15mm. They're almost like 13mm, to be honest. But if I hadn't started with them, the reason I started with those is they sold them in my local gaming store. Had I not started with those, and had I known about AB Miniatures at the time, there's a very, very good chance I would have started with those. These miniatures are absolutely superb. The people who love them, and everyone else is like, well, I'm not paying that scale. So that's it, basically. That's the story of AB Miniatures. But I don't collect them due to a lack of thinking that they are worth collecting. They are stunning models, highly recommended. If you are someone who is interested in dipping their toes in Napoleonics, then they're not too bad. They are actually quite expensive. They're surprisingly expensive for their size, but you could do like a vignette or something like that, and they're small enough that you can not spend too much money on them, and you can get away with just a few highlights. But they are large enough that you can put the details on them as well. AB Miniatures are absolutely gorgeous models. I cannot see. I can't glaze them enough. But that said, they do have the problem in that they are their own scale. So you either collect nothing but AB Miniatures, or you don't collect any at all. So there you go. You pay your money. You take your choice, literally in that case. But the answer for the 9th was AB Miniatures. So now we move to December the 10th, and I have a slight confession to make. Now, of the manufacturers on this list, I knew about pretty much all of them. In fact, I did know about all of them before I started doing the advent calendar. So I looked for the names, and then I looked for the images to match the names. And luckily, I have managed to resist the temptation to get any of them, apart from one that we'll come to later on and will be a future video. But these are the ones that I am definitely going to get some of come January payday. This is a company called Avonpost. Now, these guys exploded onto the scene a few years ago, seemingly from nowhere, and they came up with some absolutely fantastic looking miniatures. They really are nice, and they focused on the 30 Years' War and Napoleonics. Now, they are quite limited in what they do. I think they may have also done the Great Northern War as well, but don't quote me on that. I think they did. It might have been it might have been the Deluge. I think it was a Great Northern War. Anyway, they did. They did Napoleonics, and these guys came out as individual figures. They're quite expensive, but they are very nice. I'm not sure if I've even given the name of the manufacturer yet. The manufacturer is Avonpost. Now, they, as I say, they have a very, very limited range, and they suffer a little bit like Front Rank do in that they have appos for various things. So if you want a dude in March Attack, then you've got one pose of dude in March Attack. The big one for me, I think I'm going to be getting our Chevalier, and they basically do an officer who's really nice and one trooper. I think they do a trooper with the actually they do two different types of trooper. Sorry, one holding the lance and one with the lance in the sort of the holster. And that's it. So, if you want that pose, that's what you've got. If you want something else, then tough boobies, because you ain't getting it. Now, they used to do, I don't know if they still do. In fact, I'm going to jump onto their website while I'm doing this, because I want to have a quick look. And I think I mentioned this in the Clue video, that I'm pretty sure they used to do a 24 carat French Eagle. I'm not sure they do anymore. If not, then that's a shame as far as I'm concerned. But they do different poses for French Dragoons, I've just seen. So that's something that you might want to look at. Unfortunately, Victrix do really, 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 really nice French Dragoons. So they're probably one of the models that we don't necessarily need to have done. But they are very nice anyway. So that is for the 10th of December. That is Avonpost, and they are figures which, while expensive, I would recommend. Now, another company that I would recommend. Most of them are European based or even British based. This is an American company, and this is one that I have a real love for. It is Brigade Games. Now, Brigade Games do their own figures, which is what these are from, but they also do they're retailers for a whole bunch of different lines, things like North Star, or what's the other ones that they do? Great War Miniatures, I think they do those, things like that. So they're a really good hub. If you are an American, Brigade Games should be on your bookmark bar as one of your first places to go. As I say, really, really nice. Big fan. This guy is from their War of 1812 range, which, being an American company, you would expect to be pretty good. These are really good. I've bought a few of these command sets and these generals, and I'm going to use them with plastic British infantry. I'm going to paint them blue, or actually Portuguese infantry would be better. Paint them medium blue, and you've got yourself an American army. So there you go. Well, having said that, I think Waterloo infantry you can get away with just as easily. Now, I said that if you had to look up a manufacturer online, then you were honor bound to click around their website. I'll be honest with you, the cost of shipping from America is pretty exorbitant these days, and I still find myself looking around the Brigade Games website. If you're interested in Sharp, they have some absolutely fantastic Sharp adjacent miniatures. I have their Hakeswill, their Teresa, and I don't think I bought their Sharp though. But I've definitely got their Hakeswill and Teresa, and possibly their Brian Cox character. I can't remember what he's called off the top of my head. But yeah, great stuff. If you're in America, these would be my absolute number one go-to. But for the rest of us, I think the shipping makes it a little bit too expensive. They used to have a really good Thanksgiving deal, but they don't seem to have had that for the last couple of years. And that's a bit of a shame. They used to cap shipping at $20, I used to get 50% off. All my Ottomans are from Brigade, and a whole bunch of other miniatures as well. As I say, I've got some American officers as well. So that is Brigade Games. And now we're moving on to December the 12th. Now, this is an interesting company. This is from Steve Barber Miniatures. Now, it's very rare, actually, that we have manufacturers that are named after the sculptors these days. The only one I can really think of are the Perrys. And this guy is a man who's made his name over many, many years of sculpting for other companies, one of which we will come to later, and they are very nice. Now, one thing that I will say about this guy is they are quite eccentric, the range of models, and that is because he has a commission sculpting service, which I know has been used a couple of times, including on this miniature here. So you've got some really, really nice, unusual things. This is a model that if you want to have a commander for your Royal Horse Artillery, then this guy is perfect for that. So this guy is, as I say, these are Steve Barber models. You're very unlikely to buy an entire army from this guy. But if you want vignettes or character models, then he is absolutely one of the guys to see. So, yep, that is the 12th of December, which was Friday the 12th of December. That is Steve Barber models. Now, if Steve Barber represents the old school of putty-pushing figure sculptors, then we are very firmly in the new kid on the block here with digital STLs and a new game. These figures are designed for the Silver Bayonet, and they are from Lost Heresy. Now, these are absolutely gorgeous models. I love Lost Heresy. I own all of their files now. I think I said in the clue video that I had a couple of them. Well, I went on a bit of a spending spree, and because my mini factory had a sale on, I now own all of their STLs. Really, really nice models. They are, again, more designed for skirmish models, but you can certainly use them, the odd one, as a character model, or just add them into your units. So, for instance, there's a really nice Russian Grenadier. He's definitely usable. You just pop him in with a unit, and he's no problem at all. Or you can look at something like the Prussian officers. He's quite nice. And there are various sort of doctors and vivandiers and things like that you can use. I've just quickly jumped onto their website now. The Napoleonic Highland officer, he can very easily just go into a unit. There's nothing particularly fantastical about him. I'm just going to click on him. I mean, he's got a cross out over his uniform. There's also a variation where he doesn't. So you can use him straight historical, or you can give him the cross, and that makes him your Silver Bayonet character. They seem to be doing this more and more, actually, with alternatives of the same sculpt, which I really like. They do a fantastic sharp. It is probably the best face I've seen for Sean Bean on any model, and that includes the Games Workshop Lord of the Rings range. So definitely check out their sharp if you want an officer of rifles. But yeah, by and large, really nice models. You can get away with using most of them either as character models or just mix them in to your units. There's not going to be a huge amount of difficulty with some of them. You may not want to have like a 36 or 48-man Hungarian unit, and one of them's a vampire officer. So don't get me wrong, they're maybe not all usable, but some of them, you can get away with. Although, of course, that I'm certain there is a novel out there where Hungarian troops are vampires. There's Fiends of the Eastern Front, which is an awesome series of books about World War II. But I'm sure there's the availability for a Napoleonic version out there. But there you go. That is Saturday the 13th. Lost Heresy miniatures. Really nice minis. Cannot recommend them enough. Even if you're not interested in the Silver Bayonet. And if you're not interested in the Silver Bayonet, why not? What is wrong with you? Now, Silver Bayonet's a great game. Although now I think about it, I don't think I put North Star on this list. They do the official models for Silver Bayonet. Oh, well, never mind. Next up, we have, again, so we had Steve Barber, was old school. Then we had Lost Heresy representing the new kids on the block. Now we are going to the old school. This is the Eton of Napoleonic Wargaming, maybe. I don't know. There's been a lot of older figures than these guys on this list, but this is probably the company that I think consistently have the best Napoleonic range out there, and I own very, very few of them, and for good reason. But this is Wargames Foundry. Now, there are two reasons why I don't why I don't own many of these. And the first one does indeed have to do with earnings. They are incredibly expensive. They are ridiculously overcosted, in my opinion. There will be many who disagree, but I think they are. I think they're offensively priced. I'm not going to lie. One of the problems with Wargames Foundry is they are very old miniatures now. They're sculpted in the early 90s. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. They are really, really nice. For the vast, vast majority of the range is sculpted by the Perrys. But when you're looking at a command group for £14 or £16, if it's got a couple of officers in there, when you're looking at a cavalry pack for £16, for me, they're just way, way too expensive. And the reason I bring up the age of the models is because the molds have been paid off decades ago. So you're not going to tell me that you need to charge £14 for 8 models. Just no way at all. I mean, the Perrys, they in their own range, they have done. You do 6 for £8.50. So that's what, £1.75 each, something like that, £1.50. And these are just shy of £2. So they're more expensive per model. And the packs, by and large, you get the front rank problem, I'm going to call it. You just get one pose. So if you are centre company marching, that's it. There's just one pose of centre company marching. Now they do some really nice models where they're like standing to attention and things like that. So, if it's standing to attention, well, everyone is going to look exactly the same. Or you would hope, because they're all stood to attention. But when you're marching or something like that, some people are going to be looking to their side, some to their front, things like that. So you do want a variation in miniature. Now, that said, where they do have the variations, they are absolutely stunning. I'm just looking at their early line infantry flank company command for the British. Absolutely stunning. They are beautiful models. I am in absolutely no way criticizing the quality of Wargames Foundry models. I have a few of their Napoleonics. I have a lot of their Assyrians. And they are absolutely stunning models. They are so, so nice. Cannot fault them on quality. I can massively fault them on price. The other thing I can fault them on is their size. They are very, very small compared to modern miniatures. They are more like 25mm. So you could run them alongside something like minifigs, but if you're running minifigs alongside like the Foundry, it's basically like you've got an art gallery and you're hanging a 5-year-old's finger painting next to the Mona Lisa. You just wouldn't do it. So yeah, these ones are Wargames Foundry, some of, if not the best miniatures on the market, but obscenely expensive. And because they are very small for today's standards, if you are going to commit to Foundry, you are buying an entire army of Foundry, and that is going to cost you. We're talking kidneys here. Maybe even a liver for these. They are very, very expensive. So yes, that is my only problemo with the Wargames Foundry, is they are just too expensive for me. And I mean, they had a sale on over Christmas. If you spent, you got 10% off if you spent over £100, 20% off if you spent over £250. Now, I have to say, if you spend £250 on an army from Foundry, that is entirely doable. And with 20% off, you're probably actually not looking, you're looking around about a normal price range. But they are too small to fit in with plastics, in my opinion. Some people say that you can. I think they're way too small. And it means that if you're getting a Foundry army, then you've got to get the whole thing from them. I would also say, though, that for their biblical range, they are absolutely incredible. There's no one better on the market for their biblicals. But there you go. That is enough about Wargames Foundry. They are perhaps the most frustrating wargaming company out there, as far as I'm concerned. They're beautiful models. They were the absolute industry leads in the 1990s. They've slightly dropped back a bit, but not because their models got worse, but because everyone else has got better. And I think they need to appreciate that in their pricing. I've just accidentally clicked on to their Trojan War range, and oh my god, it's absolutely beautiful. But anyway, that's enough. That's enough about them. We're going to move on. That was the answer for December the 14th, and now we're going to move on to the 15th. So this is another relative new kid on the block. This was talked about these before. It's quite an interesting sales. I don't know what the word would be. Campaign. That's not the word I'm looking for. But sales idea in that they have both physical figures and PDFs as well. So their physical figures that they do for Napoleonics are some rifles and some Prussian reservists, which are, they're both nice. The rifles I've reviewed, I had my problems with, but you know what? They're okay. They're okay. I wouldn't go better than that. I would say they are okay. I think they look much better as Portuguese cazadores, weirdly. But anyway, so yeah, the riflemen are okay. The reserve Prussian infantry seem absolutely fine to me. But this is one of their vignettes from their STL range. I really like their STL range. They've got some crazy stuff in there. They've got like female French Imperial Guards women, I guess they would be. They've got little vignettes like this, and then they've got loads of sci-fi stuff and things like that. I have bought so much of their stuff on digital that I haven't got around to printing yet. It's not true. So all their Trojan War figures I've got, and all of their Joseon Koreans, because that's another period that I want to look at. So I've got them, really nice. The Joseon I printed one print of, I think, and they came out quite nicely. But anyway, so this one is, I'm just rambling now. This is Wargaming Atlantic. These are a company that I would say 2026, keep an eye on. Keep an eye on their STLs. I think this is a company that is on the cusp of really taking off. They go for a shotgun approach. They do a lot of individual kits for different things. Like for 40k, they do a lot of alternative guard. They do some alien type models, some like Xenos type stuff, and their historicals as well. They've got an idea of, say their Bronze Age chariots. They do. There's no crew in there, so you buy the crew, the STL, and you print your own crew, but you buy the chariots in plastic and things like that. They've got some really interesting sales strategies. That's the word I was trying to think of earlier on. I think Wargaming Atlantic are a company to keep an eye on. That would be my recommendation for this year. They could crash and burn, or they could explode and do something absolutely amazing. But whatever they do, I think they're worth keeping an eye on. So now we get to Tuesday, the 16th of December. Now, long-term viewers of the channel will know that the 16th is the birthday of General Dad. So I always do something related to him on the 16th. And this is no exception. My dad, as I've said before, and earlier on in this video, in fact, is the guy who got me into wargaming in the first place, Napoleonics in particular. And it was using his old Airfix, his old Italieri, his old Eschi models that really got me into it. So he is a ride or die 1/72nd scale guy, and that's it. That's all he's interested in. No 50 mils, no 28 mils, no 6 mil, no 40 mil. If it's not 1/72nd scale, he's not bothered. I can kind of respect that. It frustrated me, but I can kind of respect it. These figures are far and away, for my money, the best 1/72nd plastic figures on the market. These absolutely blew me away the first time I saw them, and they continue to do so today. This is a company called Zvezda, and unfortunately, they are a Russian company. Now, a lot of people will have moral issues buying from a Russian company. Whether you do or whether you don't is completely irrelevant. They are very hard to get hold of because of government sanctions. Now, it's a shame because they are absolutely superb models. I think Hat can come close on their best day to these guys. There's another company we're going to talk about later on who I think have got more character than Zvezda models, but these are absolutely the pinnacle of wargaming in 1/72nd scale, as far as I'm concerned. I'm sure there's going to be people out there who have their own preferences. House of Campaign, they do a couple of really nice sets. But these guys they're just beyond. These are really, really nice. I love Zvezda. As I say, unfortunately, they're a Russian company. Now, morals aside, that makes them very hard to get hold of. And also, they have a very limited selection of models that they do. They have French and Russians, and that's basically it. They may do something else. I don't think they do, though. I think they're Napoleonics. They only do Russians and French. Their other ranges they do are like super wide, and they do things like Ancient Alexander. They do the 100 Years' War. I think they've got some 7 Years' War stuff as well. They do a range of Rus and Mongolians. They're really nice. So yeah, they've got a whole range of stuff that they do. But their Napoleonics, I think, are where they really are at their peak. Now, one thing that I would say is they also reissue Italieri models. So just be aware of that. Just go on to Plastic Soldier Review and see if they are Zvezda originals or if they're reprints of something else. But I think for their infantry, there's nothing that comes even close to them. I don't think their French infantry, their Russian infantry, just absolutely fantastic. I've painted up a box of their Russian infantry, and in fact it was Russian Grenadiers, I think it was actually, and they were really nice. Now they also did a separate game called Art of Tactic. Now this was an interesting one because you would buy a smaller pack of figures. It would generally just be 3 or 4 models. And these were a very hard plastic, like a hard, shiny plastic. They're quite weird, but they're very nice. They're usually multi-part, so they're quite nicely detailed. And as I say, you only get sort of 3 or 4 models per box for them. So you've got the big boxes where you might get 30 or 40 models, and then you've got the specialists where you may only get 3 or 4. So it's worth checking out that if you are buying something and it looks like it's a very low price, just be aware that you might be getting one of the smaller boxes. But yeah, as I say, really, really nice minis. I cannot really find fault with them. They do a nice set of... See, one of the things they do figures that are unusual. So they do a nice set of Saxon Kraziers, obviously for Borodino. They do the Guard Cossacks, which I don't think anyone else does. And they also do Polish Lancers of the Guard as well. So for 1/72nd scale, I think they do a fantastic range. Really, really nice. As I say, the only problems that people might have is that they are a Russian company and they are very difficult to get hold of. So that can be 2 problems, or it can be 1. I'll let you guys decide yourselves, because I'm not your mum. I'm not going to tell you what to spend your money on. So from one potentially controversial manufacturer to one that absolutely is not. These guys are classics in the every sense of the word. Again, we're sticking with 1/72nd scale, and we are headed towards Eshi. Now, it may be pronounced differently. I don't know. I've always heard it pronounced Eshi. And these guys are, again, stone cold classics. These are ones that I remember from my childhood, and I think I still got them in General Dad's loft. I think I could probably go and grab some now. So, these guys are, again, some of the earliest Napoleonic wargaming models out there for plastic. Obviously, there were metal ones before this. But these guys are, they've graced many a table. And it really does harken back to a day where a French infantryman was a French infantryman and a British infantryman was a British infantryman. There was none of this stovepipe Shako or tombstone Shako or any of that kind of stuff. It just was what it was. Now, that's something to be said for that, and there's also something not to be said for that as well. I really like the idea of having historically correct models, but I'm not going to go out of my way not to. So, for instance, if I'm collecting models and it throws out I want to do, I don't know, the Battle of Aspern-Essling, I need to paint up a regiment of Austrian infantry. In order to do so, well, I'll paint up one that was at the battle. But I'm not going to not do the battle because I've got the wrong regiments, the wrong facings or whatever. If I'm going to do one specifically for it, then I'll try and do the same one. Eshi, their historical accuracy is perhaps not the best, but they are full of character. And again, you got a lot of models for your money, especially back in the day. Today, I've found that 1/72nd scale models are actually quite expensive. You're talking the best part of £10 a box, maybe not £10 a box, but you're certainly up there. Now, while Eschi may have concentrated more on World War II, or they certainly seem to, and they did do some nice little things. Now, one of the things I really like about Eschi actually is you often got a little vignette in the box. So for the French Old Guard, there's like a wounded guy who's been carried by an officer. For the Dragoons, I think it was, or the Krasiers, sorry, there's a guy who's like leading his horse by the reins and things like that. So there's some really nice little vignettes in there. For the time, I'm looking at when did the Guard come out? 1984, the French Imperial Guard came out. So for the time, really nice little pieces to add. Now, as I say, historically accurate, they are not. But you know what? Who cares? They are really nice models. They're full of character, and they are pieces. They are literal little pieces of history, because they're so old now. They've become historical in of their own right. I mean, the Lancers, the Polish Lancers. I know my dad's definitely still got those. He's painted them up as Dutch Lancers, although I think he's got some Polish ones as well. They've had their Lancers replaced by dressmaking pins, much to my mum's displeasure. But these are great things. You can tell I'm saying this with a big smile on my face. Historically accurate, but these are from a time before that was as important as it is perhaps now. And they do one nice thing as well, which I've noticed on one of the horses for the Polish Lancers, is they took the corner back up under the saddle cloth. And I don't know if that actually happened or not, but it's quite interesting if you're looking to convert models in future from maybe different horses. That would be a much easier sculpt than to try and get the saddle cloth properly. So there you go. But these ones are Eschi. Are they the best? Nope. Are they full of character and full of nostalgic fun? Absolutely. Now, speaking of models that are not the best, we could not be further from that, because these are amongst the best 28mm out there. They are, however, very expensive. They are Eureka Miniatures. Now, Eureka Miniatures is an Australian company, and they used to really be only available at Salute, but they were carried by I think it was Colonel Bills, or no, it wasn't Colonel Bills. They bought them. They were carried by someone else for a while anyway, who stopped carrying them and so sold them off at half price, which I got a really good deal on. So if you can get them half price anywhere, then these are fantastic. Otherwise, they are quite expensive. But Eureka Miniatures are very nice. They're on the chunky side of 28mm. Their Saxon Krasiers are probably nearer 30mm, to be honest. But that's okay, because they are supposed to be big old boys. So I don't mind that too much. They've got a nice, in fact, they've got a really nice early war range as well. Specifically the French Revolutionary Wars. Now, you'll see a lot of manufacturers will do early Napoleonic Wars, Wars of the First Coalition. But these are specifically for the French Revolutionary Wars. You even get a guillotine avec Robespierre. So it's, that's how early we're talking. Some really, really nice stuff. They also do, what's his name? Potemkin Russians as well, which they're only one of two companies that do that. And I don't know that Great War still do them, to be honest. So, Eureka Miniatures, really nice to check out. Again, one of those companies that you can easily get lost of an evening looking around their website. You want frogs with spears? These are your guys. So, there's, I don't be Frenchman. There are a lot of different models that Eureka Miniatures do. Check them out. They're really nice. They are a little on the expensive side, but they are imported from down under, so that probably explains it. But, Eureka Miniatures, nice models. Would definitely recommend, even though they are a little bit on the chunky side. Speaking of our Antipodean cousins, we now go to another digital manufacturer. And this is, this is Avanti Miniatures. Now, these are fairly new as well. They have a really, really nice range of Napoleonic Russians. That's, as far as I can tell, I think that's pretty much all they do at the moment. Although these guys are another one of the digital creators that do their stuff on Kickstarter, so they're definitely worth keeping an eye out on. As I say, at the moment, as far as I'm aware, they only do Russians, but they do a nice range of Russian infantry. Not sure about the cavalry yet. I've not seen any cavalry. But these guys were a Kickstarter last year, which unfortunately I don't think I backed. Or I might, I can't remember. But I do already have a lot of Russians, so I can I can excuse not backing it. Now these guys, I would say, are on the quality level of Front Rank. Now I said earlier on about Front Rank's reinforcement packs. These guys are very much in the mould of those. Really, really nice. They do a nice mixture of Grenadiers, Jaegers, and Musketeers. The commands are really nice as well. And, they're priced as you would expect. They're about $2 per model. And, for that you can obviously print hundreds of thousands of them if you wanted to. So I think they're really good value. Again, as with Wargames Atlantic might be my established company to watch this year. Avanti Miniatures are my new company to watch this year. They are definitely on par with another digital company that we're going to come to at the end, Piano Miniatures, whose balls I wash frequently. But no, joking aside, these guys are really, really nice. Again, can't fault them. Great models and a company to look out for in 2026. So that's Avanti Miniatures. So make sure you keep an eye out on them. Follow their Facebook page. Follow them on My Mini Factory, because I think these guys are going places. So now we move into the 20s. And these guys are a bit more of an established company. These, I would say, are the smallest of the main Napoleonic manufacturers. This is Eagle Miniatures. Now, I really like Eagle Miniatures. Again, they're quite characterful. They're not perhaps of the quality that you might expect from miniatures these days, but their price matches their sculpting quality. They are fine. They may not be your Perrys or your Front Ranks or your Wargames Foundries. These guys, though, are, if you are interested in massed battles in 28mm and you don't want plastic, these guys are a really, really good go-to. Their details are a little bit shallow, as you can see, but they still pick up paint quite nicely. And they do quite a nice range of figures as well, including a lot of the minor German states. So these are usually at most Wargame shows. They're certainly at the Partisan shows. So they're fairly easy to get hold of as well. I like Eagle Miniatures. Not to everyone's taste. Just be aware they are on the very small side, so they won't match with the Warlord or the Perrys. But, if you want just a unit of them or even an army of them, then that's no problem, because they are really good value for money, and that's Eagle Miniatures. Now, we had a manufacturer earlier on. We are back in 172nd land, and we had a manufacturer earlier on who was a Russian one. That is Zvezda. And I said that they produced the best quality 1/72nd scale miniatures out there. Now, I do still believe that, but we have to go to the other side of the most controversial thing happening in Europe at the moment, and this is a Ukrainian company, and these guys are Strelets. Now, they are without doubt, even before the current situation, they are without doubt my favourite wargaming figure manufacturer. Not even just in 1/72nd scale, just in general. They are really cool. They're really good fun. They they have a model in the Prussian staff called the Crying Officer, which for me is just the best. So these guys are they are Strelets. Now, I recently had a look to see if they're bringing anything out still, and miraculously they are. So, fair play to them for still bringing models out. And I have to say, I do not think I have seen a figure manufacturer glow up as hard as Strelets have. Their models are their latest models release are really nice. Their early ones they represent humans, perhaps. They are an interesting. Yes, they're not great. They are fun, though. They are really, really good fun. But their recent models, they've started doing the British for Napoleonics, are really nice. Now, if you know them from their early days, if you know them from their greener days than those they master now, a bit of Henry V for you there, then you may just completely pass over them because they were not good models. Let's be frank, they were poor models. Now, however, I think they've really turned it around. I think they're really nice models. So I would say, if you don't know Strelets, if you're a 1/72nd scale player, or if you have seen them in the past and just thought, then I think you might be missing out. You might be sleeping on these. So check them out, because check out Plastic Soldier Review. That's where I always go for all my 1/72nd scale knowledge, and indeed photographs like this one. But yes, now Strelets are on the 21st. Really nice minis. Now their range is, if you sort of delve into their back catalogue, is not quite so good. So just be aware that their miniatures are of variant quality. But I will say, give them a go. As I say, their later ones, really nice. So, so that is Strelets. Now we're going to move to the 22nd, and we are back with a manufacturer who's already been on this list, but I thought we'd have them on twice for two reasons. One, they are the guys who do make black powder, so if anyone deserves 2 slots on this list, it is they. And this is their second scale. This is Warlord Games and their Epic scale. Now, Epic's quite an unusual one, because the first one they brought out, very similar to the Perrys, was American Civil War. One of the really positives about the American Civil War is that you can use the same models for both sides. That's not the case for Napoleonics. They've got very different uniforms. So I assumed that the Epic scale was going to be constantly, or at least to start off with, models that you could use the same models for both sides. So I'm thinking things like the American Civil War, as we've already said, but even things like the 100 Years' War, or Wars of the Roses would have been one I would have picked. Samurai, or 7 Years' War, even. Anything like that. But nope, they went straight in with Napoleonics. They later went on to do the Punic Wars, which again is amongst my most favouriteest of wargaming periods. So, really big ups for Warlord Epic. You're going to see a lot more Epic content coming up this year, because I have bought myself a French Epic army. We are going to be doing an Epic event towards the end of the year, so that is going to be a series that I do on getting together an army for an Epic Napoleonic army. It is, of course, French, although I probably should have gone British. I'm a little bit disappointed in myself. I'll almost certainly end up buying a British one at some point anyway, won't I? But, so that is for the second time in this list, Warlord. And I did ask in the clue that people put Warlord Epic. So, that is absolutely fine. Now, we have gone on to the 23rd. Now, I'm being a little bit naughty here, because this is a company which has been subsequently acquired by Warlord Games. This is Trent Miniatures. Now, these one I thought was quite a difficult one, actually. So, congratulations if you got this one. Because they're not that well advertised, they're not on the Warlord website. They have their own website. And they are quite niche models. They do figures for the 1798 Irish Uprising, the Wolf Tone Rebellion. So that's quite nice. And they also do some Ottomans, as well as some early war stuff as well. Trent Miniatures are an interesting company. Their models are very chunky, think front rank, but they do have a nice range. They also do... because they do the Irish Rebellion, they're really good for what-if scenarios, if you want to do what happened if Napoleon invaded England, because they do a good range of fencibles and things like that as well. So check them out, particularly if you're interested in a what-if, or maybe some of the smaller scenarios. I can't think of anyone else who does 1798. I'm sure there'll be someone out there. But, if there is, let me know in the comments, because I can't think of one off the top of my head. But I would be loath to say that there isn't anyone. But yeah, there you go. That's the 23rd Trent miniatures. Check them out. And we're going into the final one, which had to be... There was only one choice for the final one. And it is, of course, piano miniatures. These guys, whose balls I have washed very sufficiently in my time. They are fantastic. And this, of course, is the model General LaSalle, the patron saint of the channel. Piano miniatures, again, one of my companies to watch. It's not really a big surprise, that one. They're one of my companies to watch, just along with the Perrys and Warlord, because they are such a fantastic manufacturer. I'm sure there's going to be stuff coming up in the future. I'm hoping that he does some more Franco-Prussian War stuff, because I backed the Kickstarter to do with that, and I want some more. Some Prussians would be nice, or even some French. But yeah, check these guys out. Whenever there's a Kickstarter on, I will move heaven and earth to back this. It's one of the few ones that I have alerts for. There's not really much more I can say. For my money, these guys are the best in the market. They are European, so they can be difficult to get hold of unless you have a printer or you know someone who does. I would strongly advise Lucas to have some sort of affiliate printer system going on in the UK. I'm not sure if he's interested in that, but he does currently provide the models in metal as well as resin. But yeah, I think he would be maxing his meal if he had people in the throughout the world who could be official printers of his minis. So that's it. That is all the answers to the Advent Calendar Challenge for 2025. Well done to CPOC for his victory. I still haven't emailed him. Hopefully I will have done by the time that this goes out. But, you know, it is what it is. I hope that you've enjoyed this trip down memory lane for some of you, and for others, maybe you found out some more manufacturers that you didn't know about. There are, of course, tons of manufacturers I didn't get to put on here. There's a guy who does the Warlord Epic Scale prints. There was, of course, Hat Miniatures. I didn't have anything from them. Despite all the 1/72 scale stuff. Essex Miniatures, I mentioned that I'd missed. Pendraken. So there are loads of different ones out there that I missed. If there's one that you think I was too much of a miss that people are sleeping on, let me know down in the comments below. Next week, hopefully, we will be looking at New Year, New Army. Or it could be a start collecting. I'm not sure which way around I'm going to do them. But thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the Advent Calendar Challenge. I hope you enjoyed the miniatures. And I shall see you guys next time.